Hey there. Happy Facebook Friday. Happy Friday. And happens every week, but I love celebrating it. And I'm so glad for all of your participation and your encouragement. It's been a lot of fun to read the messages and to see how uh, some of you look forward to whatever I'm going to come up with for the day. Today, what I'd like to talk about is the law of attraction. So you'll hear a lot about this if you venture into any of the self-help departments or into any classes about energy. Hopefully you'll hear about it. You will in mine. Hi, Connie. And I'd like to talk about it today because, one, I'm teaching a class tomorrow on it from 9 to 11, and there's about 4 or 5 spots open there. If you'd be interested in popping over, just send me a message on here or email, give me a call, smoke signal, carrier pigeon, whatever works. Show up at 9 o'clock, that's good too. So, and we will be talking more in depth about how each of us is a magnet. And the blog was about this week too. See a theme here? Where we have an incredible ability to create our own lives. And I know some people have a hard time with that because it can seem overwhelming to think, well, whatever's in my life, I have attracted into my life and I have created. But you know what? It can also feel like it's very empowering, and we are able to set forth some changes. We don't have to believe that something is set in stone, or because our parents experienced it, we have to experience it. We can take a little bit of power there and start to shift our own perspective and then create what we'd like to see. So essentially how it works is we're all floating around in this universe and we all have a magnetic pull. And if you think of the people in your life or the experiences that have come so far, you will start to see trends. And if you pay attention to those trends, you can start to ascertain exactly the message that you're giving out. And yes, it does take a little bit of work, and it takes a willingness to look at when you're not always generating the message that you would like to have returned. So there is some science behind this, and I will not even claim to be the greatest scientist in the world. Classes used to bore me. Now I find them very exciting. So part of our soul journey is we are attracted to those who will help us along with whatever path we've chosen to learn. So for instance, we all have a theme that we'd like to learn in our life. And in my life, it's balance. And anybody who knows me knows that sometimes that's a challenge for me. I can either go all in and carry it a little bit too far, or I'll back completely out and not want any part of it. I'm improving in this area by paying attention to what is in my life and what I would like to have in my life, and being able to say when something isn't in balance with what I feel, what I know, or what I would like to see in my life. So it takes presence. And my soul, in choosing this lifetime to balance the physical and the non-physical, to the extent that I was probably paying attention on the other side, or not paying attention. I was probably talking to the next person in line and just said, load up whatever skills you want. So everybody has this soul theme, not balance. Everybody has their own soul theme. And it can help to understand what that is in order to help you to create your own, the stuff you want to manifest physically. So as part of our physical brain, so that's the non-physical part, as part of our physical brain, we have this information filtering system called the reticular activating system. And it's something that I work very closely with when you come in and we want to shift belief systems or habits or, poor messages that in the way you're talking to yourself, we work in the same area. So it's also called the RAS system. What it does is it filters out all of the messages, all of the overstimulation sometimes that's in our life, and then it fine tunes it, right? And it brings it into categories almost. So it becomes a way to pay attention and to really start to place into your life what you would like to have. So have you ever bought a new color car? And, prior to, like, I bought a black one a couple years ago. So prior to that, didn't really pay attention to how many black cars are out there. But once you start driving around in that car, you start seeing all these black cars, and you just didn't realize that there were that many. And if you're in Berkshire County, they all seem to be Nissan Rogues, which is also what I drive. Go figure. So part of that could be said that it was in my RAS system before I even went and picked up and agreed to buy the vehicle. The other, because I saw it everywhere, but didn't necessarily pay attention to it. And then once I did, it became everything I saw. So that's it, literal example of what can happen with this, using the part of your brain that we need to become aware of in order, if you want to change jobs, if you want to have more abundance, if you want to have a relationship that is reciprocal. So because we are these magnetic beings and drawing to us energy, that non-physical aspect of us works in conjunction with the physical part of our, anatomy. And if in alignment, it can be extremely powerful. And I feel like a lot less work to be human. So one of the ways that you can start to pay attention, one of the ways you can start to really learn about what kind of message you're giving out, because it goes by feeling as well as what you're seeing or intuiting. So one of the things you would want to do is to start taking inventory of your life. And more often than not, we will be aware of what we don't want. And that can help us to become aware of what we do want. So when I ask people, well, what do you want in your life? A lot of the times they have a hard time speaking of it because we haven't always been taught to think big or ask big. And we can often bump into that deserving place. So if you look around your life and look to the friends you have, are they calling you, or are you the one who's always doing the calling? Is there a consideration of what's going on in your life, or are you always the support system? Goes to family, goes all the way around. And the more that you pay attention to what's in your orbit, the more conscious you will become of what you want in your orbit. And it's difficult when you start to see and acknowledge that maybe there are some people in here that I just don't jive with or I don't align with. That would be a way of strengthening that reticular activating system. I try to flip the words all the time. And that would be a way to engage it when you are acknowledging that maybe there's a gossip in your circle and you haven't said anything. You haven't said, I really don't want to discuss like that, or I prefer to be supportive of the people in my world. If you don't say anything, you are contributing to attracting more people like that into your life. And you don't have to be snarky about it, and you don't have to be a know-it-all. You can simply say, that's not where I choose to spend my time and energy. And if we're not communicating in order to help someone or to have fun, I don't really want to be in this conversation. Once you start looking at what you don't want, that could be if you have massive debt, okay? And you obviously know you don't want to be in a lot of debt. If you don't look at that debt and you don't start paying attention to whether you have a lack of belief system or whether you have a tape running around in your head that, all rich people are mean or something, which is not true. The nicest people I know are loaded. I plan to be one of them one day. So one of the things you can do is to ask yourself, what is in my way of attracting abundance? Do I not know how to handle money? Maybe I just need to meet with somebody. And if you had parents like mine, they did not teach you how to best handle your finances and how to invest and save and all of that. But, we're adults. We're responsible for teaching ourselves if we didn't get that. But becoming aware of what you don't want in your life without judging it and without getting that billy club out to beat yourself over the head, you can then start to shift it. And what happens is you start to change the actual system in your brain to start looking for the lighter side of things, the truthful side, but also the lighter side. A lot of the times people think I'm a Pollyanna because I tend to look on the optimistic side, but that's how I'm wired. And that is how I've continued to wire my outlook, my brain. I'm very pragmatic. I can call BS as well as anybody, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to sit in it, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to make it the focus of my life. So I actually have a system, if you want to call it, that if someone is simply complaining, they're just whining, complaining, everybody needs to vent. But if somebody is whining or complaining, they have about 5 minutes of my time, because after you hit that 5-minute mark, you start to help manifest for them whatever they're complaining about. So we all know someone. I don't know very many of them anymore because they don't stick around once they realize that I'm not going to listen to their story over and over and over and over again. But once you become aware, maybe you're that person. Maybe you need to set your own timer on your watch to catch yourself in your complaining. So what happens is, if you say nothing, if you continue to be a part of that includes Facebook posting, people, you will then start to put that into the offering that is your vibrational frequency. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, why am I surrounded by all these cranky pants? Like, why is everybody suddenly complaining to me and dumping all their garbage? Well, you didn't speak up. Maybe you didn't know how. Maybe you need some help with that, and I'm happy to do that. Or maybe your reticular activating system is stuck, and it's stuck in the crappy pile. So one of the things that you can do is start to selectively filter. So be mindful of the podcast that you're listening to. Be mindful of the shows that you're watching. It's certainly not about being oblivious. Easy for me to say. But it's more about being conscious of, where do you want to spend this precious time that you have on this planet, and what do you want to create in order to be in your most joyous state. It isn't a magic wand. And I don't believe that manifesting is like instant mashed potatoes, which are kind of gross anyway, so don't eat them. But if you set your sights on something, or you say, I want that, it starts to take hold, right? Everything happens on the energy field before it happens in the physical. So once something manifests, I fully expect everybody to do the happy dance and to be celebrating. But please know that you put that in your system probably long ago by recognizing what you didn't want. And it's like building muscles. Like it takes some time to figure this out and to be pointed in the direction of intentional creation. Because there's also this thing called the paradoxical intent, in which we think we want something, and we can see it right there, and we're mindful. So using the example of a lot of debt, of course you want streamline, you want abundance, and you want that free-flowing income happening. But if you don't take some time to look at the fear that may be underneath, that creates the lack mentality and creates the just old systems programmings and everything, you're going to set out an intention from the head that, of course, I want less debt, I want more income coming in. But manifestation happens from a feeling place. I'm too short, so this is where I'm coming from. The feeling place. It comes from your power center, that third chakra, and the solar plexus. So it's really how you feel about something that actually moves what you'd like to create forward. So your head is saying, I want less debt, I want more freedom. And your gut and the old belief systems may be saying, oh, that's not possible for me. Everybody told me I always had to work hard, that things can't come easily, that I'm not part of the lucky, or whatever the messages that may be in there. And then what I have found is once we address, okay, whose message, who's talking, who's in charge? Feelings are always in charge, but the head, that thing will lie to you like you wouldn't believe. So once you figure out which one is sending the message of paradoxical intent, and where the conflict is, then you can do some repatterning around it. You can do some coaching. You can just be very practical and say, okay, I see that, but I no longer believe it. Or that was my parents' message. It doesn't have to be my message. So my intention, and we'll go into more of this in the class tomorrow, and then we get to, make the vision boards. My intention is to have people realize that you are incredibly powerful magnets to draw to you what you would like. And if you take the time to learn about it and to practice, it actually becomes a lot of fun. And things show up that you might have forgotten about. One of the best parts about doing the vision board class is a lot of the times it'll get created and then a couple months go by, you put it away, and then you pull it out a couple months later, you're like, oh my goodness, all these things that I put an intention into actually happened, even though I wasn't on top of it every day. So when you're learning to line up and see the opportunity, to see the more optimistic side of things, it encourages a cellular shift that also becomes part of your physical being. So no, I don't believe that, 2-year-olds that come in that have a cancer diagnosis or a devastating disease. No, they did not create it. That's a soul level agreement to teach on some level, okay? However, we do have the ability to create dis-ease within ourselves if we're not looking at what is out of alignment. So it can be something as well, I'll use my own example. Okay, so I've had a shoulder issue going on for about a year now. And I've been not babying it, but mindful of it. And then yesterday I'm like, wait a minute, what am I carrying that is pulling on this shoulder so bad that I can't reach over my head, or I'm afraid to do the power lifts? And nobody likes those slam balls more than I like those slam balls. It's a great way to get rid of pent up energy. So I did my own awareness around it and really looked at it. I'm not going to disclose right now what it was, but that's because it's my stuff and you don't really need to know. And since late last night, when I had an awareness of what I was carrying, today I noticed I'm incredibly sore, but that's the workout that I did with Justin. Thank you very much, sir. But my shoulder feels really good, and it feels better than it has in a year. So in some place in me, I was holding that energy in there and not allowing true strength or health and healing to show up. So I feel like some of it was because I actually said yesterday, I'm just going to have to go to the doctor. I have to get this looked at. It could be a micro tear. It could be something else. Sometimes just by looking at it and admitting it instead of ignoring it, you can bring a clearing through, and then that can transcend into the health aspect. So how we feel and what we're paying attention to in our lives greatly increases the propensity to have discord within your body. So if nothing else, if you want to feel good, you need to be looking at, what am I attracting in, and how can I shift it to do it in a way that is kind to yourself. One of the things that I'll often say in my manifesting classes, whether it's in coaching or in like tomorrow where we literally talk about the law of attraction, is that before you knew that this stuff was relevant and before you knew it was going on, please don't beat yourself up for whatever's back there. Okay, because the law of attraction works. Law of paradoxical intent, law of resonance, there's a bunch of them. Works whether you're conscious of it or not. Once you become conscious of your own antenna and frequency and attraction point, you can then start to take responsibility for it. Okay, because anything we attracted in, whether it's an old partner, a job situation, a boss, maybe poor financial decisions in the past, we did it from a place of not only conditioning and how we were raised, but also by not realizing that we actually have a say in our process. So you can learn from it. You can look at it and say, well, I see what I was doing there, and that was the place I was in, and I could see how it got created, and I just choose not to go there any longer. I'm going to start from today. But once you know about it, and maybe you want to go into denial or you don't want to take responsibility, it will be increased in your world, and those messages will start coming in like cosmic 2x4s right in front of you, and sometimes whacking you upside the head. So should that happen, put some ice on it and then say, okay, what can I look at from here? So oftentimes when something comes up physically for me, if I do have to see the doctor, I will often say to them, okay, give me a month or so to work on this, and then I'll be back and we can retest, and then we'll look at what you're saying. But let me go do the work I need to do first, and then we can go from there. And some things would take a couple visits, but more often than not, when I come back, things are cleaned up because I looked at what was I bringing in and what was I believing about myself that needed to shift. So the process of visualization is huge with manifesting in the law of attraction. Daydreaming is really important. Don't live in a daydream. You actually have to do the physical components of life. But visualizing how you would like something to look or where you would like to be in 6 months, visualizing that goal, like when you're working out or creating a business plan or creating a vision board tomorrow, 9:00, it's huge, because that reticular activating system that I was talking about does not know if what you're visualizing is real or Memorex. Anybody old enough to know that reference? So it doesn't know if it's actually happening in your world or you're visualizing. It has no past, present, future. It only has, well, actually it has no past or future, sorry. It only has present. So you can be visualizing and pretty conscious of the fact that it's not sitting in your bank account right now, but you can visualize that it's there. And yes, you do have to take the steps in order to create it. But if you pave the way with some, how will it look when that savings account is there? How will I feel? The feel is really important. How will I serve? What will I do with it? Will I tithe 10% of it? Will I invest in myself and taking a class? What will I do with it? Using money as an example. Physical fitness, you can do the same thing. When you're running or working out, what is it that you envision your body capable of? So all of this is energy. I mean, this isn't a surprise, but so I will say that Esther Hicks and the teachings of Abraham, it's an energy group that she receives. Their work is always spot on. It has maintained its message and its authenticity in the 12, 13 years that I've been reading and suggesting and following their work. They're very ironically down to earth, and it gives some great pointers about how to be aware of where you are within your own energy field. So if you're down here low energy in the crabby crabs, can you stretch and emotionally reach for neutrality, and then work your way up through and perhaps get to happiness or joy? So they have some great, just a plethora of books that you could possibly choose from, everything from money to emotions and the whole kit and caboodle. So that would be a good reference point if you'd like to. And Esther Hicks is very funny. That helps when hearing, why, yes, you did create this in your life, and now what would you like to do about it? So one of the things I love about embracing and living through knowing that I'm a magnetic being and I'm drawing to me is that it gives me the opportunity to recalibrate in any moment. So if something's feeling off, I get to choose about how I would like to shift it. And then it seems to automatically drop the blame game. It's no longer about parents or that person made me feel. Please don't use that line with me because it will not fly. You felt how you felt. No one can make you feel anything. But once you become aware of all of this, there's a sense of self and empowerment and a trust in the universe, truly, that, it has your back. So long-winded today. Can you tell my timing worked out where I don't have to run right to a client? So thank you so much for tuning in, to all the people who joined. And I look forward to every day, but I'll see you next Friday. If there's any questions, I have another article due for Ask Vicki in our Berkshire Times. Feel free to send questions. I won't be doing intuitive readings, but that always sneaks in there a little bit. It's more coaching advice. And I wish you all the best and appreciate you so much for being in my life. Bye.